In the Steampunk Society, there is a competition called tea dueling. Basically, you dip a cookie in your tea and see how long you can hold out eating your cookie before it crumbles. Some will bring their own teacup to the duels. What better reason to make a teacup holder? After seeing some examples online, I decided to make my own. I did have most of the leather tools, so it was not that expensive for me to make this project. The leather I'm using is a cowhide. There are a variety of fittings that will suit most people's tastes. The ones I already had and will be using have an old antique look to them. Here are some of the tools that I used. At the top, the rotary hole punch. The next two are snap rivet setters. The sharp X-Acto knife for cutting leather. A snap rivet plate, not necessary but it is helpful, and some sort of marking tool. A hammer is needed. The pliers aren't necessary but are helpful sometimes. An anvil is good to have, but before I got the anvil, I would be hammering onto a piece of wood. With the teacups, I went to a second-hand store to try and find something that was interesting and inexpensive. I also tried to find teacups where I can have multiple of the same type. So if I made a holder and I broke a cup or a saucer, I would have spares. I used the saucer to draw out the base of the holder and then used the X-Acto knife to cut the shape out. At the same time, I cut out two strips that would be used as the belt holders. I cut a piece larger than the base and then I soaked it with water. I then placed it over the saucer, and with working with your fingers you can form the leather into the shape of the saucer. It takes a bit of time, but eventually it will work out. I then set this aside for a few days to dry out. I cut a bunch of strips that are going to hold the teacup in place. I'm going to use the strap through the handle to hold everything together. I then soak these strips in water and form them to the cup, and then set them aside to dry. I thought about using a stitch to go around the edge of the holder, but decided to use fittings instead. Once the parts are dried, I started to lay out where the cup holder would go. I decided to do this first before the main body, as it would be hard to access the inside to install the fittings later. The fittings were put on one at a time, with frequent checking by putting the saucer and cup into the holder to make sure everything fits. Here is where the plate is useful. The dome shape of the snap is held in place underneath while I stake the inside. And here is the finished teacup portion of the holder. Next I put on the belt straps. I like to use snaps as it makes it easier to take on and put off the teacup holder. Now it was time to mark up where I'm going to put the rivets to attach the two main pieces. And here is the finished item. I guess I was so excited to finish, I didn't take any in-progress photos. As before, I installed one fitting at a time, checking each time to make sure the saucer would fit inside. I started with the bottom rivet, worked my way to the right, and then to the left. And here it is with the teacup and saucer inside. It wasn't that much more effort, but I did make two of them at the same time, with there being some slight variations. The fittings on the right one have a bit more brass color to them. Well, that's it. I hope you enjoyed the video, and thanks for watching.